In this screencast, we're going to go through the steps necessary to publish your Node app to your production servers from your GitHub repo. This is a manual method because we're not using any automation or continuous integration tools to do it, but it's still very easy and very reliable. If you're interested in using those tools, check out some of my other screencasts. In this lesson, you'll learn how to create an SSH key for your server, associate that key to your GitHub account, pull your code from your repo into your server, launch your Node app using a tool called Screen that will keep your app running after you log out, make and test changes on your local development environment, push those changes to your repo, and finally pull those changes from the repo into your production server. You're going to need a GitHub account, a MeanStack project or Node.js project on your local development environment, and a production server such as an AWS instance. If not, you'll need to set those up prior to completing the steps in this screencast, and if you need help, there are links at the end of the screencast to help you out. So we're logged into our server here, and the first thing we'll do is create our SSH key. We're going to accept the defaults that the program offers, and when we're done, if we look in the SSH directory, you'll see the keys are created. We need to copy the contents of the public key. So we're going to cat the key out and then just copy that into our clipboard. And then we'll go to our GitHub page where we'll go into Settings and then down to SSH keys, and we'll click the button for Add SSH key. We're going to give it a title so that we know what this key is being used for, and then we'll paste in the contents of that public key and select the Add Key button. You can see that it gets added right here. Now that we've got our key added, we can pull that repo from Git down onto our production server. So we're going to grab the URL and then go back over to our server and type git clone and paste in the URL, and it's going to pull that repo down onto our server. Once that's done, we can go into the directory, and since this is the first time we have run this on this server, we need to run npm install. If you've been working with Linux for any length of time, you've no doubt started a process on Linux such as Node and been working with it only to have it fail. And if you're like me, you spent way too long troubleshooting it only to realize that your SSH session had timed out and killed your process. Enter stage left, a tool called Screen. Screen's described as a window manager, meaning that you can launch Screen inside an SSH session and disconnect from it, leaving everything running inside that session where you can later reconnect to it. I've included the homepage for Screen here for you to check out, and it's included with many Linux distributions, and if it's not in yours, you can add it using your distribution package manager. So npm has finished installing all the dependencies, and we're now ready to start our server. We're going to use a tool called Screen to do that, and Screen allows you to start a session that you can disconnect from. This means we'll be able to start Node and disconnect from it and leave Node running in the background so that when we later reconnect to the server, it's still running. So we're going to start by typing the command screen, which will start a new session for us. And then we'll start our Node app. And you'll see I specified an environment variable there called production. What that does is it allows me to check different environment variables based on where I'm running. For instance, on my local development environment, the Mongo database server is running as localhost, but out on this server I have a different instance running for Mongo, and so I need different connection strings. So it's up and it looks like it's running, so if we jump back to our browser window, we should be able to connect to it. And sure enough, there you go, our app is up and running. So let's do two things here real quick. One, we want to disconnect from this screen session so that I can show you how it works. So on our keyboard, if we hit Control A and then Control D, we disconnect from that screen session, and you can see right here it says it detached from it. So if that worked as we thought, I should be able to come back over here and refresh the page, and you can see that Node's still running. The other thing I want to show you is in my application here back in the code, I've got two files under my config, one called development and one called production. And you can see the DB connection string here for production is set to an external server. And then in my development environment, you can see that it's connecting to, it defaults to localhost unless it's being overridden by a different environment variable. The next thing I want to show you is how to get changes from your local development environment back out to your server. So we've got it running, we're getting feedback from our users, and we determine that there's a change we need to make to the code. So the first thing we want to do is create a branch so that we're not working on our master branch. Then we go into our code here, and then we can change whatever it is we think that we want to change. We'll just change some text here. So if we do a git status, we'll see that that file has been changed. We'll commit it. And then we'll push it back to the repo. So now if we go back over to our app here, you see we've got a new push there. And granted, when you're the only committer to your repo, doing pull requests seems kind of silly, but it's always a good habit to do. So we'll create the pull request, and we can look, verify that the files are changed, and then we'll merge those into master. So now if we go back to our server, so we merge those changes into master, so we're back on our production server here. We can update that code with a git pull. And you see that pulled the changes down. And now we can reconnect. Remember, our Node app has been running this whole time. We can reconnect to that session by using screen-R. And so if we just bounce the service using Control-C to stop the service, and then the up arrow to retype the last command, Node's going to restart. So now if we go back to our web browser and we refresh the page, you can see that the changes we made were updated. So we can go back to our server one more time, and we can use Control-A, Control-D to disconnect from the session so it remains running. One of the nice things I like about Screen is I have a frequent habit of forgetting to do that, and then when SSH times you out, it will still do that disconnect for you. So even if you forget to disconnect, whenever SSH times out, it will disconnect automatically for you. We can continue this process of making bug changes and new features in our local development environment, push those up as a branch to our repo, and then merge those and pull them down into our server. You get all the benefits of using source control, and you're not modifying code on your production server. I've got some links on the screen here for you that show you all the different tools and packages I used in the screencast, so be sure and check those out. Let me know if you have any feedback. Thanks for watching.